Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of Not the Worsted Knitting podcast. My name is Michelle, and I am the knitter and knitwear designer behind meeshyfrazz Knits. Hi Tuna. In today's episode, we are chatting about a few finished objects that I have, including what I'm wearing because we've got a special release going on. And I guess a couple of rabbit holes I've gone down as well, which are super fun. They're sort of related to knitting, but they are not knitting, so that'll be near the end. But we are officially in September, so I am counting that as fall. I love September, especially here in Western Washington, because it starts to get a little bit crisper out. The trees are already sort of starting to change, and slowly the weather just gets a lot more autumnal. It is still a little bit warm, but we've had some misty mornings, which I am very much enjoying because it feels very on theme with everything I'm working on. It's the sun is starting to burn through the clouds a little bit now, but the last couple of mornings it's been very misty and foggy and just really beautiful and moody. So you will see, why don't we go ahead and start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing my Brunch Crew Long Sleeve. This is a pattern that started as a summer pattern that I released earlier this year for the local yarn store tour here in Puget Sound. And I really wanted to have a sweater version just because I really enjoyed the design, and it's a DK weight pattern. So knitting DK weight means that it's kind of a versatile fabric for either season, in my opinion, just kind of based on the yarn that you use and the fiber content that you're going with. So I really just thought it would be nice to have a sweater version, and that's what I did. So this version that I am wearing, I used actually two yarns held together to create this gorgeous fabric. So these are both from Fyberspates, and the main color is from their Vivacious 4-ply base, and this is in the color Peacock. And the yarn I held with it is Cumulus in the color Sugar Violets. And I thought it was really interesting too, because you can see, if I move up a little bit, how dominant that Cumulus was, because I don't feel like the Cumulus is far off from what the sweater looks like. But when you look at Peacock up next to it, you can definitely see how much bolder and stronger this color is. So the Cumulus really worked to tone it down, and I think it made such a gorgeous color. This is just kind of like my perfect hydrangea color. We have a hydrangea in the front yard that blooms later in the summer into early fall, and it's like literally this color, so it just kind of adds to my happy late summer, early fall vibes. So I am really excited to announce that this update to the Brunch Crew pattern is now officially live and available. So if you already have the Brunch Crew pattern, then you will automatically get an update. It will be updated through Ravelry, so you should get an email letting you know that the pattern has been updated, so you can just download the new version in your library, and that will have instructions for the long sleeve. If you bought it through my website, just please email me with your order number to let me know, and I will send you an updated version. Just because it doesn't really work the same way with the website as it does with Ravelry. Ravelry is nice because it just kind of automatically updates the library and lets everybody know. So that's what's going on with that. If you have not purchased the pattern, then when you do purchase the pattern, you'll have both options available out the gate. So it has instructions for short sleeve and long sleeve, and you just decide which you want to do. This knit up at the exact same gauge. So my original sample I knit up in Haiku Sueño, which was just one yarn. It's a single DK weight yarn. And that's what I did the long sleeve in. And that was a superwash merino and bamboo blend. And so this is, obviously it's two yarns held together. And I think, so the main color, this Vivacious 4-ply is just 100% superwash merino. Let me double check that. Yeah. This is just 100% superwash merino. And then Cumulus is a Surrey alpaca. So it's just a lace weight with the Surrey alpaca on a silk core. So with that, making this really gorgeous fabric, like you can see the halo, You can see the blend of the colors in there. It's incredibly soft. It's also very drapey. Because of the weight of this garment, it did grow quite a bit in blocking. I expected it to grow a little bit, but I thought that maybe the suri would keep it from growing a ton, but it did grow quite a bit. And if you watched me talk about this when I finished this a month or two ago, I mentioned that I knit the sleeves to pattern, and when I finished it, I was worried that the sleeves were a little bit short, like they were hitting right around here on me, and I was nervous that that wasn't exactly what I wanted, because I wanted this to be oversized and cozy. And so I thought about blocking it, but then I was like, no, I'm just gonna add just a little bit more length and then I'll block it. And so I did that. And of course the sleeves grew. So you can see this is where they hit. And when I was mentioning this in the video, I was saying that I was going to rip it back before finalizing because, you know, I wanted to make sure it was the correct length. Well, every time I thought about ripping it back, I couldn't do it because I actually love how it fits. I love that I can grab it like this. I find that that makes it even cozier. So I've decided that we're keeping the length on the sleeves. It's already an oversized garment, so let's just stick with that and be super cozy. I love this sweater. I love it so much. It's so cozy, it's so comfy. I've been wearing it this morning because it's been chilly. I will say the sun is coming out now and it's starting to warm up. I've got some plans later today, and I wanted to wear this, but it's gonna be in the 70s, so I don't think I can get away with a suri alpaca and merino wool sweater in the 70s, but I'm dreaming about the day where I can put this on and wear it for the whole day. But at the very least, I get to wear it this morning, and I really love this. So just in case you are curious about the pattern, if you are new here, this is a top-down raglan. And it has a lace motif on the front and the back. Hopefully you can see that okay. So it's on both sides. You can choose if you don't want to have it on both sides. I did have a couple testers who chose just to have the motif on the front and they kept the back just stockinette. So that's of course up to you. And then it just has plain sleeves. Of course, you've got a short sleeve option and a long sleeve. And it's got a fun little pearl bump detail on the neckline and on the hem, as well as on the cuff. I just thought it was a nice little added detail, especially before you go into the lace here. And then it's just got moss stitch in the middle. It's quite a simple, repetitive motif, so you pick it up quite quickly, and you're knitting a lot of stockinette, and then you just have that little portion of lace in the middle. So it knits up really fast. Like I said, it's DK weight. It has a nice open neckline too, which I really enjoy. I like this because it's lacy and open, but it's still very warm and doesn't feel revealing. I purposely wanted to do the lace for the summer tee because I wanted something that was a little bit cool and breezy and felt summery. And I was thinking about how I would adapt that for winter. Now, of course, you could choose whatever fiber you want and you can wear, you know, a cami underneath or something. But I thought it might be nice to add a yarn that was a little bit fluffy so that it would fill in those lace holes so that it doesn't feel revealing. So you can see here, you really can't see through it. I mean, you can kind of see something if you're really looking, but it's not revealing in any sort of uncomfortable way. And so I feel very comfortable wearing this as is. So yeah, definitely check out the pattern if you're interested in doing the long sleeve version. If you are a newsletter subscriber, then you probably got that email this morning, which had a special fun discount. This is definitely a good reason to be a newsletter subscriber because you'll always be the first to know when these sort of things release, and you'll always get a little bit of a discount with my new patterns. So that is the Brunch Crew long sleeve, and that's my update for that. Why don't we go ahead and chat about my finished objects? So I've got a couple this time. I feel like I went a really long time without having anything finished, but I finally actually have two, one of which is on the mannequin and one is here. And that is both of my Misty Pines samples thus far. So here you've got my large motif, and then here is my small motif. I'm gonna try and, here, hold it like that so you can kind of see the two side by side. So if you've watched previous episodes, then you know that since knitting these, I decided to actually add a third chart, which is kind of an in-between, because basically we've got the small motif, and then I did the large motif, which is literally taking it exactly and just doubling it in scale, which created kind of this really fun, blocky, geometric sort of version of this. But I really still wanted a large version that felt like this in terms of the kind of organic tapering. So I decided to make a third tapered chart version, which actually I think I have 5 or 6 testers who are doing that chart. 1 or 2 of them have already finished. And I've debated back and forth whether or not I wanted to do a third version or not, but I would really like to have that third sample so I can have some photos of it so people can see the differences. Obviously, I will share my testers versions as well, just in case I don't completely finish it by pattern release. So you can see all 3 versions knit up. That will be available, no problem. I don't know, I really want to sample as well, just because I think it would be nice to have all 3. While I'm chatting about this, we can talk about the differences between the 2 and what you can expect from the third sample. All right, so you can see here that this is the small motif version that also has the small motif on the sleeves, and I have chosen to do the tapered sleeve version for this. So in the pattern, I'm including balloon sleeves and tapered sleeves. And the tapered is just for the small motif, only because the large motif is so big that it's not gonna be super tapered because, you know, it's just a huge motif and that would be kind of weird. So you could do basically the same idea as the balloon sleeves for the large and then just not cinch in the cuff. And that would essentially give you a tapered sleeve, but it's gonna be almost more of a straight sleeve. So anyway, so we've got the tapered sleeves with the small motif on here. We've got the balloon sleeve with the large motif here, and you can see, hopefully you can see, yeah, can you see that? Hopefully you can see how that cinches in for the balloon sleeve. And so for the third version, I wanted it to be a little bit different than the other 2 since I'm showing both sleeve options and the 2 different charts thus far. So for the third one, obviously that will be the tapered motif for the body, but I'm thinking that for the sleeves, what I'm going to do is actually a balloon sleeve with the small motif. So it'll be kind of a combination of the 2, just because I think that might be nice to see as sort of a more subtle approach. And I think that will match really well with the tapered version because I think it'll just go nicely, this one and the large tapered side by side. The other difference that I'm going to do, so both of these samples are using Woolstok, Blue Sky Fibers Woolstok worsted in various colors. These are basically the colors from their neutral bundle. And so I have a bunch left over from all of these. However, I don't have much left of the main color, which is this white, which is Highland Fleece. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was like, do I just go buy more yarn? Do I go back to the drawing board and come up with completely different colors? Do I try and find a different color just for the main color? I didn't really have anything in stash that would work. And then I was thinking about the fact that I earlier on had sort of debated what it would be like to reverse the colors for more of like a nighttime version. So I decided to do a schematic, which I will pop up here. And I did, not a schematic, but like a mock-up. And I did a side-by-side comparison of what it looks like as is with the colors I've been using with the new tapered large motif. And then I did the same thing with the reverse option. So it's literally the same colors, just in reverse order. And I just did them side by side to see, and I really liked it. So I think that is what I'm going to do, because I actually do have plenty of this color here, which will end up being the main color. So I'm really excited to get that one started. And plus, I think it'll be a nice change just because I've done 2 of these so far that are definitely different, but you know, they start out very similar, and it would be nice to change it up a little bit so it doesn't feel like I'm just knitting the same sweater 3 times. And I think it's just gonna be a really nice way for you to see different color options, different color order. I'm also, it might be too much, so I may not. We're gonna see how I feel, but I have this like gold metallic thread that I'm sort of debating could be cool to embroider some stars or a moon or something. But that might be a lot. That might be, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when it's done. If I think that that's like too much, not enough, I don't know. But that is my plan for the Misty Pines set. But fortunately, 2 out of 3 are done. The test is going really well. I've got, like I said, I've got actually a really good split of people doing each motif. So there's a really good representation. People have been really enjoying the new large tapered chart. So it's literally, you just take one chart and you pop it in. So the instructions are the same no matter what, just based on which chart size you choose for length and all of that. So it's exciting to see people finishing their sweaters, especially, you know, this far in advance. I'm really happy to see those coming through. It's so fun to see the colors everybody picks. Some people pick colors that are very similar. Other people chose very different colors. I've seen a lot of blues and greens, and I definitely would love to do one with green at some point. So we'll see about that. But yeah, that's how that is going, and I'm really happy to have these 2 done. I'm hoping that we're gonna actually do a photo shoot for these 2 maybe this upcoming weekend. Of course, we'll have to end up doing a 3rd photo shoot for the 3rd one later, but that's okay. It's fine. It's not a huge deal whether or not I finish that in the next couple of weeks, but I do want to have that just as one of my options. So that's progress on Misty Pines. All right, so that leaves me with my final project, and this is a work in progress. And this is my Fidalgo cardigan. This is my 2nd Fidalgo cardigan now. Of course, you've seen the first one. I've shared that a whole bunch in the beautiful So Happy Jane yarn. This is my 2nd version that I decided to knit, mostly because I needed to cast something on at Flock and I had no idea what to cast on. And I was very much in the high of the Fidalgo cardigan because we're coming up on fall, and I don't know about you, but I want cardigans in every color in my wardrobe, and I love this cardigan, so that is what I cast on, and I am using stash yarn. So this is, let me see, I don't have much to show you here, but this is Malabrigo Rios in the color Pearl 10. So it is a very deep purple. You can see here that I am very much in my purple phase right now. I am feeling the purples. And so we're making good progress. Last time I had showed this to you, I don't feel like I had made any progress. I just had the little back panel done. But the last few days, I have felt very motivated to work on this as the temperature is changing. And I don't know, cardigans are the perfect thing for these transitional seasons. So I really want to get this added to my wardrobe. So I'll have a light Fidalgo cardigan and a dark one, which just feels like it kind of completes both options. So that is the progress on that. You can see the back shoulder detail. It's a really, really pretty deep plum. And I love kind of the black undertones in it. So I just did my 2nd buttonhole, which you can't see at all because the yarn is super dark. But yeah, so we're about halfway there. I'm debating if I want to make this one a little bit longer. I might do 5 buttonholes on this, but I'm not sure. Part of it's gonna come down to me trying it on and seeing how I feel about it. And part of it is gonna come down to how much yarn I have. I might only have enough for 4 buttonholes, so we're gonna see on that. So that's a TBD. But this cardigan has sent me down a really fun rabbit hole. So with my first Fidalgo cardigan, I got buttons from Wendy of Warm Stripes, and she made these beautiful ceramic buttons, and they were so perfect for that sample. They looked so good together. And so I've been thinking really hard about what kind of buttons I'd like on this one. It's been a little bit tricky to get buttons around here. There aren't many stores near us that carry a lot of buttons. And, you know, Joann was actually a larger button option for us out here. And now, of course, Joann's is closed. Plus, I'd prefer to get them locally from like a local yarn store or an indie creator or something like that if I can. And of course, with everything going on, some of the button makers that I've really enjoyed, they are in the UK and Canada, which is a little difficult for me to get right now with everything. So I decided that it would be fun to play around with resin and try and make my own buttons. And so this past weekend, that is exactly what I did. So just be warned that for the next however many minutes, I'm going to be going on and on about how exciting it is that I made buttons. Okay, so I got some UV resin. I watched a ton of YouTube videos. I did this entire rabbit hole of just watching videos on what kinds of resin to use, the best type of resin, how to use UV resin, all the safety precautions that you have to take, what happens when you use different materials, all of that stuff. And so I bought a whole bunch of things. I bought some button molds and all the stuff, all the safety gear, all of the different materials that I might want to use, glitter, mica powder, inks, you name it. So this past weekend, we had an extended weekend, and so I decided to take a couple of days and just really play around and learn. I initially, looking at this, I was thinking like, okay, well maybe I'm gonna go with purple and like lean into the purple vibes and just do purple buttons. So maybe I will do something along those lines where you can see it, but it's not super obvious, and we'll start with that. I just tried to gracefully dump all my buttons on the table so I could easily grab them, and they literally flew everywhere. So now that I've cleaned them up and tried to put them in an order where I can show them to you, so basically my first try at buttons, I'm trying to figure out how to show these. I don't even know how to show these to you. So this was kind of my first pass at buttons. I had this black glitter that kind of, when you move it around in the light, you kind of get little flecks of purple. And so I wanted to play with that. And then I put a little bit of mica powder in the back that was like a purple color. I didn't love the results. It felt a little dark and dingy, like you couldn't really see what was happening, but I felt like it was a really fun way to learn how to use the resin, and I don't think they look terrible. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I can try and show you this with the fabric. Please don't fall. Yep, okay. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Nope. Okay, we have a lone survivor. So you can see here, it actually matches pretty well with the fabric, but I don't know. I think if I want to go subtle, I think this is good because you're just not really going to notice it. But if I'm making my own buttons, I was like, maybe I want something that actually does stand out a little bit. So yeah, that's option one. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. And that's what it looks like. It is still pretty, and I do love the glitter in it. And actually looking at it on screen, it's so funny how things look different on screen than they do in person. I really like the way this looks on screen. So that was my very first ever go at buttons. And we're just, they're on the floor. Again, we're leaving them, it's fine. The cats, I don't know where they are. I can't believe they didn't hear the buttons and come running, but yeah. So my next up on that same day, so this was still day one, I wanted to play with just doing purple, but I was like, maybe I want to do a different shade of purple so they actually stand out. And so this, I really can't, I don't know why I'm trying to show them to you sideways, like they're not going to fall off of my hand. Okay, buttons are really hard to display, you guys. I also had a really hard time photographing them too. So if you have tips for buttons and highly reflective and shiny things that are very small, please let me know. So this was my second option, where I just used mica powder, and I just used just a little bit of, it was like a plum mica powder, and in the bottle, it looked like it was about the same color as my cardigan. But when they dried, they definitely came out more of like a brownish plum than my cardigan, and I will show you how that looks. So that is how that looks together. And I still think it's a pretty button, but it's definitely a little bit browner than I would like. I mean, it stands out nicely, but I don't know if that's really the color that I'm going for. So that was my day one trial of buttons. I still don't think they're bad. I don't really know how to show these, but yeah, I think that does a good job. So I'll show you, this is the side by side of the two. So one with black glitter and then a little bit of purple mica powder behind, and then another one where it's just like a plum mica powder, and that's kind of the difference. They do have a nice shimmer to them. I like that the mica powder is a little bit shimmery. It's got a little bit of glitter in there in all of them, and I think those are just really pretty. So I don't think that was actually too bad for my very first try at resin ever. There were some things I needed to learn, like on the back. I mean, the back, honestly, it doesn't look that bad, but you can see they're a little bit uneven. I hadn't filled the mold up all the way because I wasn't sure if I wanted to. And then the sides were a little bit higher than the middle was. So I did some more research and I realized that I think I was curing at too high of a temperature. And so it was dropping too low in the middle. And then also I need to do a better job of filling the mold. So did some research, slept on it. The next day I woke up and I was still really excited to play with buttons, but I wanted to try something else. So I realized that at this stage, I think I need to just play and not try to go in making buttons exactly for this right out the gate. Like, I just need to play with options and ideas until I learn how to make buttons properly. And then when I know what I'm doing, then I can go in with a plan. So I was scrolling Pinterest like crazy, looking at all of the different resin tiles. Oh, hey, buddy. Just looking at all the different things that people have posted on Pinterest about resin, specifically with UV resin, because I wanted to keep it simple. I don't want to go with 2-part resin, epoxy, all of that, at least not yet, because I'm just dipping my toe. So I was looking at all of this different beautiful like resin jewelry that people have made. Not a lot of button stuff, if I'm being honest. Oh, yeah, he's found the buttons, speaking of. Oh my goodness. Couldn't find a lot of inspiration for buttons specifically, but I did find a lot of stuff just on resin in general and resin techniques. And so I just kind of went through, tagged a bunch of stuff I really enjoyed that I wanted to play around with, and went from there. And so what I was really inspired by was people using gold foil. And so I had actually bought a set of foil in like gold, copper, and silver. And by the way, I got these bottles, it was like under $10. The bottles are really big and it goes so far. Like I think I used like the tiniest sheet of gold foil for like 10 buttons. Anyway, so then I made these guys, which I am completely in love with. I hope these are gonna show up. Yeah, there we go. I know there's a bit of a glare, but you can kind of see. And so what I did with this was I mixed some resin with a colored mica powder, in this case like a turquoise, and poured it in like 3/4 of the mold. And then the last quarter of the mold, I just poured clear resin in, and then I put in gold foil. I don't know if you can see, but Tuna is trying to climb on me. I think it's because I'm in his chair. I didn't put out his little throne today. And he's like, why are you in my seat? Anyway, so yeah, this has a little bit of gold foil and mica powder. I had made enough resin to where I could actually make several sizes of buttons. So I just had a lot of fun and I made them in a few different sizes. I'm just trying to find a place where you can see this well. But yeah, I think that shows pretty well. They're just really beautiful. And I even made some, so my button mold has all different types of sizes and a couple of different options for different textures. And so this one has like that little border on it. And I don't know, I just made a ton of buttons in a few different sizes. And this one specifically, I am really in love with, so much so that I actually want to try this in several different colors and see if it gives me the same kind of technique. Like even, I mean, you can't see really, but even on here, okay, can you see this? He took my seat. He legitimately took my seat. So, oh, sorry, buddy. Okay, we're sharing. This is what I get for not bringing his throne out. Anyway, so I made a ton of buttons using this technique. I think you can tell that this was a technique that I really enjoyed. Sorry, I'm holding my palm out to you like I'm a real housewife of something, but I guess I'm the real housewife of buttons. I don't know, as I drop them. So I made a bunch of different sizes, and I was able to replicate the technique pretty easily throughout. It takes a while before it cures on its own, even with me having the windows open and it being sort of sunny out. So I didn't feel rushed to kind of like get everything done before it was going to cure. And I ended up buying just like a little nail UV lamp to cure these. And it doesn't need a whole lot, as long as it's slightly transparent. Because of course the UV rays have to get through the button. But this is what those look like, and I just think they are so, so pretty. I really hope this shows up for you. So that kind of reinvigorated me. Basically, I had enjoyed the buttons that I had done the day before, but I was like, they're not quite there. I feel like there's still a lot I need to learn. And then I made those buttons and I was like, oh man, this is bad, because now I have a new obsession. So from there, what I was thinking about was, okay, what's another technique that I think would be really fun to learn, and something that I think could be versatile that I could use on a lot of different things? Because like these blue ones are gorgeous, but of course these are kind of a specific style, right? Like they're not going to go with everything. These are a bit ornate. These are buttons where you kind of want these to be the star a little bit, right? I am going to do a purple version of these because I'm curious. I'm curious to see what these look like in a purple, because just having that little offset of gold on the cardigan, of course, because those are complementary colors, I think could be really cool. Obviously, the blue does not work, which we never expected to work. But I am curious what this might look like with maybe the gold and purple, or maybe even like a rosy lavender color. Just to kind of bring out more of that silvery part of the yarn. So I'm probably going to experiment with a few different versions of the foil and a color. But I also was thinking about what would be a great button to just have that would be kind of a universal button, and that was tortoiseshell. So I don't know about you, but I feel like tortoiseshell buttons can go with so much. I love tortoiseshell for everything. They're like a neutral, they'll go with almost any color. And so I decided to try, I was still kind of playing around with mica powders. I knew that there was a chance that that wasn't really going to give me the effect I wanted, but I wanted to see because I was curious. I actually really liked kind of the very subtle glittery effect that it was giving. Out of my set of mica powders, I found kind of like a coffee brown color and then like a sandy tan color. It's a little bit on the yellow side. It ended up maybe being a little bit more yellow in general than I wanted, but I wanted the contrast between the two to be there, but not stark, because I thought about also doing like literally black and white or black and a very, very pale beige. But I wanted to start with more of a subtle contrast. And so these, God, they're so shiny. It's so hard to show, but these are my quote unquote tortoiseshell buttons. They need a little bit of work. They're not quite there yet, but I don't think they came out bad. So my issue, I think, was the fact that I poured them in as quadrants. So I took the dark brown in the top left and the bottom right quadrant, and then I did the sandy beige in the bottom left and the top right quadrant. So it was just kind of like alternated. And it's resin, so as the colors sort of converge, you know, it doesn't just stop. Like there is a little bit of blending that happens, but some were a little more blobby than others, and I wanted to kind of play around with swirling it. So I decided to swirl them, and I think that that was the wrong call, because what ended up happening for most of them is they just became more of like a swirly brown. And while pretty, it wasn't really the effect I was going for. I apologize if these are hard to see. I'm really trying to show these off. But I mean, you can kind of see here, like this one is mostly just brown. And then this one has a little bit of that gold tone, which is nice. But they ended up being a little bit irregular, shall we say. And now again, tortoiseshell is irregular, but these weren't really giving me tortoiseshell. They are beautiful, but they are just not exactly there yet. So I think next up I am going to try and just keep the blobby quadrants and see how that goes. Let them sit for a while so that the liquids can kind of merge a little bit and see how that goes. Sometimes with these, I do worry that I'm maybe trying to control the situation a little more than I should, and I should just let it kind of do its thing, because that's part of what I love about tortoiseshell is the abstract nature of it. And when you're like literally forcing a swirl, that's not exactly abstract anymore. But I still do think they're pretty. Also, I do wonder if I should just try this with something other than mica powder. So I did buy alcohol inks, and then I got them and opened them up, and in the package it says you're not supposed to use them with UV resin. And it turns out, so I've read some back and forth on this. Some people are like, it's fine, you can use it, just use it sparingly. And other people say that if you use it, then your resin isn't going to cure. Basically, it's because of the alcohol, and you have to let the alcohol evaporate before you can cure it, because otherwise it'll never harden and your resin will be tacky, which obviously you don't want. So I think what I'll have to do for that is just do it in layers. So like do a clear layer of resin, cure it, and then do a very small amount of alcohol inks, try and get the effect I'm looking for, let that sit for a while in hopes that the alcohol will evaporate, and then eventually come back, do another layer of clear resin on top, cure that, and it should be okay. But that's going to be a lot of trial and error, I think. So that's something I'm still playing with. But I can show you my buttons because they still are really cute. But that's what they look like. I do think they are still very pretty, and I think they would work pretty well. I can show you what they would look like on here, just because I was thinking about what it might look like to just do like brown buttons. Okay, so this is what it would look like on the cardigan. So it's basically like a brown button. It's got a little bit of variation in there, but really from far away, it just kind of looks like a brown button, which I think is okay. But still, I don't know if that's what I'm going for. So back to the drawing board. I will probably play around with more buttons this next weekend. But this has turned into a really fun hobby, and it's helped me to kind of play around with things and learn things. I will say I've learned a bunch of stuff too, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure some things out. So with this one, where I had the 2 different colors of resin that I was pouring in, mixing a whole bunch, pouring in, and then stirring around, in some of the molds where it has like the little border, I ended up getting some bubbles that I didn't realize were there until it dried. And I think you can see there's one like right up there. And if you don't catch all of the bubbles and it dries, then you get like a little divot. So I still need to figure that out a little bit. I know the lighter trick where you run the lighter over top and that the heat kind of helps with the bubbles, but this one was at the bottom of the mold. So I think what I need to do is be more patient and basically let the resin sit for a while so that the bubbles can come up to the surface, and then use heat to kind of get rid of the bubbles as they come up. But I think some of that is just trial and error, right? Either way, I did figure out that, you know, filling the button molds to the very top is good, but also you can overfill your button molds, which I did for a few of these, where it has the 2 little silicone prongs that stick out, of course, so that it can make a button. And one of them I filled so much that the resin just completely covered over it. And it ripped the prong out of the mold. So I've already decommissioned one of my little button molds, but that's okay. That's how you learn. And they're just little silicone molds, so it wasn't anything crazy. But I'm really enjoying it. So if you have any tips for resin, if you have worked with resin, please let me know. I would love any helpful tips and tricks that you have. I've been scouring Etsy for good button molds, only because the molds that I have, it came in a pack of 3, but each mold, it's all different sizes on one mold. And what I would really like is a single mold that has all the same size in one, so I can work them at the same time and run them under the UV lamp at the same time. I found a couple options on Etsy. I've already ordered them, so we're gonna see, but there aren't a lot of size options, and I don't know if this is just one of those things where I'm gonna need to make my own mold, but that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down in the future. So we'll see. I'm trying to keep this fairly simple for now, but I am quite enjoying it. So I do think maybe next week, I'm not sure, but I think it might be fun to do like a little behind the scenes vlog of me making some buttons. A few of you have mentioned that you would like to see that, so I think it'd just be fun because I mean, I'm gonna be doing it anyway, so why not film the process so you can see what's involved. I've had a lot of people ask me questions about it because I think a lot of people are curious about making buttons or just wanting to know more about what it's like to work with resin. So yeah, I'll have that up, you know, soon, of course, knowing that I am no expert and I am learning, but I think it's just fun. Watch me come along on this journey while I venture to make the perfect buttons for my next Fidalgo cardigan. So yeah, I mean, at the very least, I will end up having a ton of button options for future garments, which means I need to make a whole lot more cardigans because I'm gonna have so many buttons, it's gonna be outrageous. Okay, but yeah, that is it for my works in progress. You can see Tuna is completely passed out in my chair. So that's it for knitting chat. All I've got left to talk to you today as I move buttons off of my show notes is book chat. And so when I chatted with you guys last time, I was just starting We Are All Guilty Here by Karen Slaughter. And I have just finished that book. So I just finished it a few days ago and I enjoyed it. I will mention, it has a few trigger warnings. So I'm just gonna say, if you are concerned by any trigger warnings, just know that this deals with some heavy topics. But just to kind of give you a brief synopsis, because I went in fairly blind, this is a book that follows our main character, Emmy Clifton. She's a local cop for a very small town outside of Atlanta, and the story starts with basically a kidnapping of two teenage girls. And while that is what's happening, the story is really focused on Emmy, who is dealing with trying to be a cop and to do her job in a town where, you know, the sheriff is her father. That is who she reports to. Everybody that she's interviewing as possible suspects are people she grew up with or like doctors she's gone to since she was a kid. Just she knows everybody, everybody knows her. Not everybody takes her seriously because her father is the sheriff and they think that she just got the job because of nepotism. All these different factors that you're dealing with. And what I enjoyed about the story is that the actual cases are a big part of the story, but they aren't all of the story. It's really about her navigating it in her life in this town. And it feels very episodic in like a true detective sort of way. So you have this case, and then you end up actually going in the future after this case is done to solve another case. And so it's interesting to see the differences over time and the relationships and how they've shifted over the years. I'm not going to give anything away, but I just will warn that, you know, it's a book about a cop who is investigating some pretty heavy cases. And so just be warned if that's not your cup of tea. I don't know that I would recommend this book, but I did enjoy the book overall. I thought it was a good read. I know that it is the beginning of a series of books she's going to be doing in this little town. And there were definitely a series of characters that were dropped in where you're given a lot of information about these characters and then they don't seemingly have anything else to do with the plot, which makes me believe that they are each going to kind of be represented larger in the upcoming series. So yeah, I'll probably read the next book that comes out for this. I will probably continue to read this series. It wasn't anything that blew me away, but I did enjoy it. And so I just finished that, like I said, a few days ago, and it was perfect timing because there was a book in my queue that just came available through Libby, and that is Assistant to the Villain by Nicole Maehrer. And I have just been hearing so many people talk about this book and how good it is. I think there's 3 of them now. Actually, so complete side note, I just started using this app called Fable as a way to track my books. So I got a Kobo. This is like a whole lot of information you may not be interested in, but I just got a Kobo, which is kind of a Kindle replacement. And I love it, by the way. I got the Kobo Libra color and it's fantastic. I love the buttons. It's so good. It's amazing. Anyway, I wanted a new way to track my books because I don't love Goodreads. And I stumbled upon Fable thanks to all of the booktube channels I've been watching. And so I decided to give it a shot. So far, I'm really liking it because it gives you a lot of stats, and those stats, of course, will update as you read different books and give you good recommendations. And then it also does have a little bit of a social aspect, like it has a feed, but it also has book clubs that you can join. And I found there seem to be at least a couple of different book clubs that are like crafters that read or stitching and reading. And so I've joined those and I've wanted to kind of be a part of that. But one of the ones that I just joined, they were reading the third book in this series. So I was like, unfortunately I couldn't join that. But it made me want to definitely read this book as soon as I could to kind of get up on the series. So anyway, long story long. So I finally started reading Assistant to the Villain. I am not very far at all at this point. I have only read, I think, like 7% of the book. I just started it last night. And I will note, I don't know if it's a slow start or if I just have a lot on my brain, but I did find myself kind of drifting off while reading it, like not falling asleep, but just I would be reading it and then the next thing I know, I'd be thinking about a ton of other things. Now, granted, some of those things I was thinking about were button techniques, so maybe I just really need to get this button stuff out of my system and it has nothing to do with the book at all. But my mind was definitely wandering a bit at the beginning, where I had to kind of keep telling myself, okay, focus, read, and I had to reread the first few pages a few times before I really got into it. But for a quick synopsis of what I at least know about the book. So you were following the main character, Evie Sage, and I think she's trying to find a job. She just came from a job fair. She's taking care of her family and lost her job and desperately needs to find one. And as she's kind of lamenting at the fact that she doesn't have a job and isn't looking forward to going home and telling her family this, she runs into the famed villain of their village. So she accidentally wound up in the outskirts of town in like a forest that you're not supposed to go into because it's known as being dangerous, and stumbles upon the villain that everybody is terrified of. So far up to this point, he has not been named. He is just referred to as the villain. So he asks her to help him to kind of escape from the royal guards. And she just does it because she's just going along with it and she's intrigued by him. She wants to know more about him and she's not scared of him, which is something that I guess is unusual because most people are terrified of him. And so this is basically what starts this relationship of her becoming the assistant to the villain. And that's about as far as I've gotten. So I'm not giving anything away. That's basically the summary of what they tell you. So we don't know why he's a villain or what he's done. And I think that's what we're going to be figuring out as she becomes his assistant. So I will let you know how that goes and if I enjoy that. Now that we're moving into fall, I definitely like more of the charming, spooky books. I'm okay with a little bit of fantasy and mystery. You might be able to tell that my reading is kind of all over the place. I think my favorite genre is like mystery thriller. I think those are kind of what I go to if I'm in a slump. But I really just like to kind of read everything. So I think I just kind of go through phases. And if I read too much of one genre, I start to get tired of it because they might start to feel a little formulaic or whatever. But right now I'm enjoying that sort of like spooky fantasy mystery. So we'll see what I think of this. I've heard that it's supposed to be just kind of like fun, lighthearted, funny, maybe a little romantic. So stay tuned for more on that. So that is all I've got for you today. If you stuck around until now and listened to all of my button chat and my book chat, then thank you so much. If you would like to get in touch with me, I am meeshyfrazz on Instagram and Ravelry. You can email me at meeshyfrazz@gmail.com, and you can find me on my website, which is meeshyfrazzknits.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.